That's that. That's that. If you want to get more closely acquainted with Vergil's Doppelganger mechanic, I strongly encourage you to watch my first video, which is basically this Doppelganger guide, where I go very in-depth into the basics, the rudimentary aspects of this mechanic. The link to that video will be in the description below, so yeah. So first things first, before I start talking about the combo and the mistakes you can make and all that jazz, I should preface this by talking about my controls. So, I play this game using my mouse and keyboard. Yeah, really. Blasphemy, I know. But I think that if you've ever played a single game on your PC using a mouse and a keyboard, these controls should be familiar to you. I think they're very easy to grasp. So, just like with almost every game ever, WASD are the keys you use for movement. So W is forward, S is backwards, A is left, D is right. This is the equivalent to you using your analog stick for moving, like tilting it left, right, forward, backward. That's basically what I use. So again, W forward, S backward, A left, D right. Obviously, just like in every game ever, space is jump. So I jump using space. The left mouse button, unsurprisingly, is the attack button. Also, like in every game ever. The right mouse button is the button I use for Mirage Blades. So all my Mirage Blade attacks are mapped to the right button. The right mouse button, I mean. So that's basically it for these basic controls. Shift is the button I use for locking on. So when I lock on, I press Shift. In this game, you gotta be locked on for just about any attack ever. Only under specific circumstances should you release the lock on. But yeah, basically lock on is Shift in my case. So next up we've got the trick action. So, trick up, down, air trick, all that stuff. I use E. So E is the button I use. So if I press E without locking on, that is trick up. If I press E while locking on, like Shift plus E, that is air trick, and I teleport. If I press back to forward plus E, or S plus W plus E, that is trick down. So, like I said, E is the trick action. That's the button I use for tricking, basically. R is the button I use for taunting. So that's the taunt button. Air taunts, lock-on taunts, doesn't matter. R is the button you gotta press for taunting. Moving on, I have F, and F is the button I use to charge my Sin Double trigger. So I press and hold F, then I release it, and I basically go into my Sin Double trigger mode. Moving on, we also have 1 and 2. So 1 is the button for changing the weapon to the right. So my layout is as follows. I use the default layout for my weapons, my arsenal. So it goes Yamato, Beowulf, Mirage Edge. So if I have the Yamato equipped and I press 1, it will switch to Beowulf, which is the weapon to its right. And if I press 1 again, it will switch from Beowulf to the Mirage Edge, which is the weapon to its right. If I have the Yamato equipped, and I press 2, it will go to the weapon that's on its left, and that is the Mirage Edge. If I press 2 again, it will switch to Beowulf. If I press 2 again, it will once again switch to the Yamato. So that's how this works. It's for switching weapons left and right. That's how it works. Moving on, we have the Doppelganger buttons. So the buttons are as follows. X is the slow doppelganger. This is a doppelganger that is kind of delayed by about, I don't know, half a second or something. So that's X. C is the normal Doppelganger. He is slightly delayed, not by half a second, but, like, he's just not completely in sync with you. So that's C. And V is the haste version of the Doppelganger who is completely in sync with you, meaning that he immediately reacts to your commands and he mimics your inputs. He registers them immediately and simply reacts to them. So, yeah. I deactivate the Doppelganger by pressing Z. So that's how I do it. And, you know, that's pretty much... those are all the controls, really. There are some other things like, you know, using CTRL to basically lock onto multiple targets, or, I mean, switch the lock on, stuff like that, or using the arrows, using, you know, it just doesn't matter, really. These are the main things that you will need. So, if I say, I'm pressing D plus left mouse button, that means that I'm pressing right plus attack button. If I say I'm pressing S plus W plus left mouse button, that means I'm pressing back to forward plus attack button. Kind of like tilting your analog stick back and then forward and then pressing the attack button. So that's how it works. If I say back to forward plus right mouse button, or S plus W plus right mouse button, that is basically back to forward plus your Mirage Blade button. So heavy rain blades in my case. But don't worry, most of the time, like 99% of the time, I'll say right plus attack button instead of D plus left mouse button, because I feel like that's more universally comprehensible, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, these are my controls, and now let's talk about the actual combo.
Do you guys know what hell is? In religion and folklore, hell is a location or state in the afterlife in which souls are subjected to punitive suffering, most often through torture, as punishment after death. Now, it goes by many names. You know, you got Inferno, you got Naraka, Jahannam. There are many expressions that contain the word hell, at least in English. You know, you got what the hell, hot as hell, when hell freezes over, like a bat out of hell, hell of a something. You get the point, right? Hell can be something like being born in the Balkans or living in California. Hell can be a horrible job or a horrible partner. But sometimes hell can take the form of a DMC combo. And that's what we're talking about today. So, as you guys already know, like, I made 23 Vergil combos, and that was from May to October 2022, right? But there were a few more combos that I wanted to replicate, because Michelle Gun 201, this incredible, one of the best Vergil players ever, he made a combo video, and I think it was in December of 2022, and that's when I decided I was going to replicate 2 more combos from that combo video. However, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. I tried my best, but I couldn't. But I didn't really put my heart into it, honestly. So I was just like, yeah, this is incredible, but this is impossible. Like, I just can't do it. And that's what resulted in the scrapped combo, which I never bothered uploading up until a few months ago. I mean, a month ago, I don't even know. And then I decided to actually replicate the scrapped combo, which was from that same combo video Michelle Gun 201 made, and I decided to add another setup from this other video by this other DMC player that made this setup that I always wanted to use. And there was one more combo, but it was always out of my reach. I was like, you know, no way, I just can't do it. But after I was done with the Torment combo, which was one of the most ambitious combos I've ever tackled, it's definitely one of the... Not only is it the longest combo, but it's also probably either the hardest combo or, like, top 3, I don't know. But then, then I started actually analyzing that one combo by Michelle Gun 201 that I could never replicate. And I was like, you know what? One day I woke up a few days ago, and I was like, you know what? I'm feeling motivated. Let's do this, man. And I replicated the combo. It took me an insufferable amount of time. It took a lot out of me. It really did a number on me. And today, we're basically talking about the Hell combo. I don't know how this is even possible, but I keep one-upping myself when it comes to DMC combos in terms of difficulty. Like, first we had the Torment combo, now we got the Hell combo. What's next? The Agony combo? Devastation combo? Now, this combo is actually one of the shortest combos I've ever done, or maybe it's the shortest combo I've ever done, with the exception of the Wasteland combo, which is about the same length, like 15 seconds. But then again, there is the Urban combo, which would have been 10 seconds if I had not included the Doppelganger summon part, and if I had not extended Million Stab for like 7 seconds. So yeah, the Urban combo is still the shortest combo. It's like 10 seconds, but this is the second shortest combo. But it doesn't feel like it. It's so jammed. It's so action-packed. Like, every single microsecond of this combo, it's just something going on. It is the most doppelganger-y doppel combo I've ever done, and I don't think anyone can really dispute that. So one thing that's actually, you know, not insanely difficult about this combo is that you don't have to switch the doppelganger's mode, right? So that's kind of like an extenuating circumstance. Well, actually, no, you know what? I gotta sidetrack myself here. So, I've been using the term extenuating circumstance wrong my whole life. I used to think that an extenuating circumstance, like, that's something that makes something else easier. For example, Vergil has 3 weapons, Dante has 8. And Vergil is easier to learn, he's easier to master because he only has 3 weapons. So him having 3 weapons is an extenuating circumstance, something that facilitates things. But no, apparently an extenuating circumstance is something that, like, if you do something bad, but you had a good reason, like you had some justification, like, I don't know, you stole money, but you didn't steal money for yourself, you stole it to feed your kids. So it's like, that's an extenuating circumstance, some justification, some excuse. I had no idea. I don't know why I'm talking about this. So anyway, let's start talking about this combo. Now, as is the case with every combo ever, this combo can be split into parts. Now, I see 3 parts to this combo. The first part starts with, well, the beginning, and ends with you using Million Stab. The second part is what you do after Million Stab, and then the second part ends with you using Air Trick, right? That's where the second part ends. And the third part is basically you using Starfall and the rest of the combo. That's basically the third part. I'd venture to say that the first part of this combo is definitely the easiest part. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy as hell by any means, but if you compare to the other parts, it's definitely the easiest part. Sure, you need a little bit of speed, but honestly, it's a very, very easy to build up the muscle memory required for this. So the first part is definitely not the hardest part. I would actually recommend practicing the first part and also practicing the third part, or well, the last part. The way I did this combo was actually, I started with the last part. So I had the haste version of the Doppelganger active, and I used Rising Star with him, and then I did Starfall and all this other stuff. So I would recommend doing the third and last part of the combo first to build up the muscle memory, the timing required. It will definitely be very important down the line. So practice the third part, or well, the last part first, then the first part, and then you will get to the second part, which is why this video is called the Hell combo. So you need to have the Yamato equipped, and you need to have the haste version of the Doppelganger active, you know, the version that reacts to your commands immediately. Now, you'll notice that something is off about this combo, as was the case with the Torment combo as well. Because Vergil does upper/1, but the Doppelganger does upper/2, and he does it slightly, like, after Vergil, so it's, like, later. So this might lead you to think, wait, so is this the slow version of the Doppelganger, the delayed version? Because he's not doing this in sync? But no, it isn't. And also, let's say you had the slow version of the Doppelganger active, and you press right plus attack button. Vergil does upper/1, and the Doppelganger also does upper/1, but he does it later, right? And that's basically how it works. So in this case, what you gotta do is you use upper/1 with Vergil, which is right plus attack button, and immediately you gotta be incredibly fast. Like, I cannot overstate how fast you gotta be. So you press right plus attack button, Vergil does upper/1, but before he even does it, before he even starts it, you call the doppelganger back to your position by pressing V, and in doing so, you'll prevent the doppelganger from using upper/1 with you. So you're preventing the doppelganger from reacting to your commands, basically. That's what happens here. So, again, right plus attack button, Vergil does upper/1. Immediately, before he even does it, you call the doppelganger back to your position, and then you press right and you hold the attack button, which will result in the doppelganger using upper/2. Because as you already know, when you're on the ground on the right side with the Yamato, pressing right plus attack button is upper/1, which will only launch the enemy into the air, but Vergil will stay grounded. But if you press right and you hold the attack button, that is upper/2, which will also launch Vergil into the air alongside the enemy. So, again, you press right plus attack button, Vergil does upper/1, you immediately call the doppelganger back to your position by pressing V, and you input right and you hold the attack button so that the doppelganger can use upper/2, right? And Vergil won't react to this because he's already too busy. He's got his hands full using upper/1. So that's how this works. However, that's not enough. When you press right and you hold the attack button, you gotta hold the attack button for a very long time, and then you release it after a while to do a judgment cut, right? So this will cause Vergil and the doppelganger to use a judgment cut. Make sure that your timing is actually off. You don't want to use the perfect judgment cut, because if you if you do a perfect judgment cut, what's going to happen is Vergil and the doppelganger will use it in tandem, and the doppelganger will go back to Vergil's position, so he will be on the ground. He won't be airborne. So make sure to use a regular judgment cut. A few times I made this mistake, and, I did a perfect judgment cut because I let go of the attack button too early, at the right time. So, yeah. Alright, so immediately after using this judgment cut, you call the doppelganger back to your position again, in my case by pressing V, and you input rapid slash, which is left plus attack button, right? Now, as you already know, when you're on the right side, on the ground with the Yamato, pressing left plus attack button is rapid slash. And obviously, when you call the doppelganger back to your position, he will be on the ground, on the right side. So when you press the left plus attack button, he will use rapid slash. Alright? That's very important. Again, you gotta be really fast as you're doing all this. Now that you're done with the judgment cut, you immediately use trig down, and you switch to the Mirage Edge, and you use Million Stab, which is left plus holding the attack button, right? And make sure that you're not holding the attack button too long. I'll explain why later, alright? So now you hit the enemy with Million Stab, and this is where the first part of the combo ends. Alright, so let's say you did everything perfectly up until this point, and you've hit the enemy with Million Stab. What do you do now? Oh, man. So the following, 3 seconds less, actually, a second and a half. So that part that I'm about to show you, that is why this combo is called the Hell combo. It is by far the most difficult part of the combo, and it's just so infuriating, man. This is the reason why, back in December 2022, I didn't even bother with this combo. At first, I didn't even know what was going on. I thought it was a jump. I thought it was something else, like enemy step, but I had no clue. But now, upon closer inspection, I can tell you that this is actually trick up. Now let me explain. As you already know, trick up is you let go of the lock-on and you press the trig button. In my case, I let go of shift and I press E. So what this will do is it will basically propel Vergil into the air. It will teleport him into the air, pretty high up into the air. So it works like a vertical teleport in a way. So what are you supposed to do in this case? So what you're supposed to do at this point is, while you're using Million Stab, which is left plus holding the attack button, you switch to the Yamato, you let go of the lock-on, you press the trick button to use Trick Up, and immediately, I cannot stress how immediate this has to be, in that microsecond, you've never, so in that microsecond, you press the attack button and you start mashing it. In other words, you start using aerial rave with the Yamato. You know, the aerial combo for Yamato. But let me explain. Why is this the hardest part of the combo? Because it requires immaculate timing. Nothing that I've done so far has ever required me to be this fast. I can't verbalize, I can't delineate how strict the timing here is. If you, like, don't cancel Trick Up in time, like, if you press the trick button and then you press the attack button too late, even if it's 0.0000001%, like, I can't, man, like, look at what happens, so, I'm using Million Stab, I let go of the lock-on, I switch to the Yamato, I use Trick Up, and I pressed the attack button, but apparently it was too late, and what ended up happening was Vergil was propelled into the air. He used Trick Up, and he didn't cancel it. So this is the most frequent mistake. This is what makes this combo so incredibly just agonizing. I can't, man, and look, there are three levels to this. So either you completely fail the cancel and you end up not canceling Trick Up. So, you know, if that happens, you'll notice that Vergil will be launched very high into the air. Like, he will be teleported into the air by Trick Up, and he will be very, very high above the enemy. So that's a complete fail. Then there's level 2. This is when you manage to actually cancel Trick Up, but only partially. So you press the trick button and you press the attack button, but the game registers that as being too late. So you won't be launched as high up into the air. You'll be, you know, closer to the enemy, but it still won't be close enough to the ground. Like, when you use Trick Up, when you cancel Trick Up like this, your feet, Vergil's feet, are supposed to be 1 millimeter away from the ground, so that when he starts mashing with the Yamato, with aerial rave, he immediately falls to the ground. He immediately goes back to the ground, like zero height. I think that's the state. That's the name of this state, zero height. So you need to be at an incredibly low altitude. So you cancel Trick Up so fast that it barely even comes out. You can't even see that it's Trick Up. That is the key here. And you can see so many instances where I either completely fail the cancel and I end up using the full Trick Up, or I partially end up canceling Trick Up, but as you can see, I don't fall to the ground fast enough, and that's where the combo fails. Now, I don't know, man. These are just some of the recorded instances. Keep in mind, this has happened over 500 times. I'm probably not even exaggerating here. This is the most frequent mistake, hands down. This is the part that encumbers this combo so much that it's unreal, but it's required. I see no workaround. Because you might be wondering, what's the point of this? Like, why even use Trick Up? Why even cancel it? What's the point of this? It's very simple. You need to use Trick Up and cancel it. You need to start mashing with the Yamato, right? You gotta use aerial rave. And the reason for that is you want the Doppelganger to react to you mashing, and you want him to start using Yamato Combo A before you do. So you want the Doppelganger to start mashing earlier. Now you might be wondering, why don't we simply use enemy step? Like, why don't we simply use jump cancel? Well, that will cause the Doppelganger to jump, so, because he reacts to your commands. So that won't work. This is literally the only way. One thing that I really feel I gotta clarify here is we've already established that you can either cancel Trick Up way too late, in which case you will be very high up in the air, and that's like a complete fail, or you can cancel Trick Up too late, but, you know, It's almost in time, but not really. Like I said, the timing is incredibly, unfathomably strict, and you have to be 1 millimeter away from the ground. So in all of those instances that I showed you previously, where you're 2 millimeters away from the ground, you might be wondering, why is that a problem? Well, let me explain what happens. So all of these mistakes that I'm going to be talking about right now, they pertain to that case where you cancel trick up, but you didn't do it 1 frame earlier, so you're 2 millimeters away from the ground instead of 1 millimeter. So what happens when you partially cancel trick up? Alright, so there are two things that can happen. And it's like pick your poison, basically. So the first thing is you cancel trick up, and you're 2 millimeters away from the ground, and now you keep mashing in the air, and you do aerial rave with the Yamato. Now, if you use aerial rave with the Yamato, Vergil will use the full aerial rave one, and then he will use another, and he will just keep mashing, and he will keep mashing, and he will keep using aerial raves while in the air with the Yamato, and by the time he hits the ground, the Doppelganger will have already finished Yamato Combo A. So obviously the Doppelganger reacts to you mashing while you're in the air, so he starts using Yamato Combo A. And you want the Doppelganger to use Yamato Combo A before you. But in this case, you know, if you cancel trick up too late and you're 2 millimeters away from the ground, if you keep mashing in the air, Vergil will keep using aerial rave and he will keep mashing and he will never fall to the ground. By the time the game brings you to the ground, the Doppelganger will have already finished Yamato Combo A, and at that point it's too late. So in this case, the Doppelganger does Yamato Combo A before you can even start Yamato Combo A. So one way to circumvent this, I thought, would be to just stop mashing, because the more you mash while you're in the air, the longer Vergil will stay in the air. So we want Vergil to hit the ground ASAP. So I thought, wait, let's stop mashing. This will bring us to the ground faster. But if you stop mashing while you're in the air, the Doppelganger will also stop mashing. And when you hit the ground, the Doppelganger will reset Yamato Combo A, and he will use it at the exact same time as you. So it's like pick your poison. Either the Doppelganger finishes Yamato Combo A before you, if you mash in the air, or he basically does it at the exact same time as you. You want him to use Yamato Combo A before you do, but you don't want him to finish it before you can start it, you know what I mean? So no matter what you do, in this case, when you're 2 millimeters away from the ground, when you cancel trick up too late, no matter what you do, you're cooked. This is why I keep saying you need to cancel trick up immediately. It has to be so immediate that you can barely even see that there is a trick up. Like, when I first saw this combo back in 2022, I struggled to understand what even happened. I didn't even know it was a trick action. I thought it was enemy step. So, again, you're supposed to basically cancel trick up immediately. And then when you mash, Vergil will use the first 2 hits of aerial rave with the Yamato, and then the game will automatically bring him to the ground, and he will start using Yamato Combo A, right? But in these instances, if you keep mashing and you're too high up in the air, even though it's only by 1 millimeter, what's going to happen is, well, Vergil will keep mashing and he will keep using aerial rave and he will never hit the ground. And the Doppelganger, you know, by the time you hit the ground, the Doppelganger will have already finished Yamato Combo A. And if you stop mashing, yeah, sure, you'll be grounded faster, but, you know, the Doppelganger will basically start using Yamato Combo A at the exact same time as you, because if you stop mashing, he stops mashing. So I hope you understand why this is so incredibly annoying and why you need to have this perfect timing no matter what. There is absolutely no workaround here. So again, you use Million Stab, you switch to the Yamato, you let go of the lock-on, you press the trig button to use trick up, and you simultaneously, while pressing the trig button, you immediately press the attack button to use aerial rave with the Yamato, right? That is basically how this works. If you don't do it in time, you're cooked.
and the whole combo is cooked. Everything's cooked. This has happened so many times that I don't even see the point of talking about it. It's just, I'm getting PTSD from this because it happened not so long ago. Now, you'll see here how I actually started practicing this. And the way I recommend you do this as well. You can practice this trick up cancel simply by using melee and stab, nothing else, just use melee and stab, and then you do the same thing. You let go of the lock on, you switch to the Yamato, use trick up, and then you cancel it. You can see how, while training, while practicing, I actually managed to do this relatively consistently. I managed to get to this state where Vergil is only 1 millimeter away from the ground, so that when he starts mashing, he immediately falls to the ground again and continues the combo like nothing happened. But when it's time to actually do the full combo, I just completely lose all my IQ. It's like I can't do it at all. I can't do it consistently. So while practicing with the regular million stab, I can do it no problem. Sure, I can fail even then, but it's more consistent. When I'm doing the combo, I can't get it down at all. Now, I do recommend one thing. So one way you can practice this combo is by putting the game in reverse turbo. So if you have that SSCon's trainer, you can actually put the game speed, you can set the game to 0.7% speed. You can slow the game down. You probably saw how there were 2 attempts at the start of this video. So the first attempt was the original attempt, where I did the combo perfectly. That was like normal game speed, and it was a miracle. And the second attempt was actually recorded in 0.7% turbo, or well, reverse turbo. I slowed the game down to 0.7% speed, and then I sped it up by 1.3% in my video editor. So that's definitely something that facilitates things. You can actually practice this combo in slow motion. If you put the game in 0.7% speed or maybe 0.8% speed, it guarantees that you will get this cancel down way more consistently. That's a given, basically. In fact, most of the attempts I've made with this combo were actually recorded in 0.7% speed. But I did eventually start doing it in normal speed, and that's when that's basically the first, the video that I uploaded, basically. So, yeah. So if you're completely desperate, you can play the game in slow motion to try and get this cancel down, and then you just speed the video up, either by using some editor or I don't really know what, but this is definitely something that is an option. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So, again, you use melee and stab, you let go of the lock-on, you switch to the Yamato, you press the trick button, use trick up, and you start mashing the attack button and using aerial ray with the Yamato. But wait, that's not all. So as you're mashing the attack button, as you're using aerial ray with the Yamato, you're not locked on. Like I said, you let go of the lock-on. Make sure that as you're mashing, you're holding right. So as you can see on my keyboard, I'm holding D. So I am holding the D key. I am basically holding right. And the reason for this is, once you resume mashing, Vergil will fall to the ground, and you just continue mashing. You just mash like a maniac. So after you do melee and stab, this part is at least easy. Once you use this trick up and you cancel it, from that point onward, all you gotta do is hold right and just mash the attack button like a maniac while holding right. Now, why are we holding right? Why do we gotta hold this button? It's very simple. We want the doppelganger to move closer to the enemy, and we want Vergil to move away from the enemy, right? So we want Vergil to gain distance from the enemy. So you press and hold right. I'm pressing and holding D. You can hold the right analog stick. I don't really know how it works on the controller. And you just start mashing the attack button, all right? And now what's going to happen is Vergil's doppelganger will use Yamato combo A, because as you already know, mashing the attack button on the ground with the Yamato is Yamato combo A. So the doppelganger will hit the enemy with the last hit of Yamato combo A, and once he does that, you immediately press left. So you're no longer pressing right, you press left. You press and hold left, and you just keep mashing. This will cause Vergil to use the last hit of Yamato combo A, but since you turned left, he will hit the enemy. He will turn left. He will face the enemy this time. So you were holding right to get away from the enemy to gain distance, but now that the Doppelganger has used the last hit of Yamato combo A to blow the enemy towards you, you just turn around, you press left, and you use the last hit of Yamato combo A. So you're basically playing catch with the Doppelganger. It's a tennis match, you know? And this is why it's so important. This is the whole purpose of this trick up cancel. You want the Doppelganger to finish Yamato combo A before you. And for him to do that, he needs to start Yamato combo A before you do. So he starts Yamato combo A while you're still using that aerial rave, and then you fall to the ground and you use Yamato combo A yourself, albeit later, you know? If Vergil and the Doppelganger were using Yamato combo A at the same time, nothing would happen. Basically, it just simply wouldn't work. So that's the whole purpose of the trick up cancel. So now that you've blown the enemy away with the last hit of Yamato combo A, you've basically sent the enemy flying towards the Doppelganger. At this point, you immediately lock on. Well, you can lock on earlier, actually, doesn't matter. And you press left and you hold the attack button. Or, well, it depends on the camera angle. In my case, I gotta press left plus attack button. You want the Doppelganger to use upper/2. And as you already know, when you're on the left side, on the ground with the Yamato, pressing left and holding the attack button is upper/2. So Vergil's Doppelganger, he's obviously on the left side, on the ground with the Yamato. So when you press left and you hold the attack button, it will cause him to use upper/2, and he will launch the enemy into the air. But wait, that's not enough. Just like last time, you gotta press and hold the attack button for a very long time, and then after enough time has passed, you let go of the attack button, and this will cause Vergil and the Doppelganger to use a judgment cut again. Now, in this case, you can use a normal judgment cut. You can also use a perfect judgment cut. As a matter of fact, that might be preferable, actually, because the perfect judgment cut will guarantee that the Doppelganger will go back to your position, but the original creator of the combo used a regular judgment cut, so that's what I went with. After you're done with this regular judgment cut, provided you did that, you call the Doppelganger back to your position. This is the third time. So you call him back to your position by pressing V, in my case. You switch to Beowulf, and you use Air Trick to teleport to the enemy, who is now airborne. Oh, and one more thing. Make sure not to call the Doppelganger back to your position way too early. So make sure he's done using his judgment cut, because if you call him back to your position way too early, you'll cancel his judgment cut, and then the enemy will fall to the ground. So you don't want that. And this is the end of this hellish second part of the combo. Now let's talk about the third part of the combo. Alright, so now that you're done using Air Trick, you're supposed to use Starfall with Beowulf. Now, normally Starfall with Beowulf is just pressing the attack button while you're in the air. But in this case, you gotta lock on and you gotta press right plus attack button. Now the reason for that is you want the Doppelganger to use aerial cleave with the Yamato. So, as you already know, when you're on the right side, in the air with the Yamato, pressing right plus attack button is aerial cleave. And aerial cleave basically pins the enemy to the ground and causes them to basically bounce back into the air. So in this case, you want to use Starfall, and you want the Doppelganger to use aerial cleave. So you press right plus attack button, okay? So now that you're on the ground, basically, now that you're done with Starfall, and now that the Doppelganger is done with aerial cleave, you switch to the Yamato, and you press and hold right. In my case, I never even let go of right. Like, I keep holding D. I keep holding right. So, you keep holding right, and you want Vergil to use Yamato combo C, and the Doppelganger to use Yamato combo B. So what happens here, essentially, is the Doppelganger sends the enemy flying towards Vergil with the last hit of Yamato combo B, and the enemy lands directly onto Vergil's Yamato combo C flurry of slashes, like the slash barrage. So that's what happens here.
Now, as you already know, Yamato combo C is, you can mash the attack button 8 times, 5 times, doesn't matter. Usually it's like 4 times. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, and then you start mashing the attack button. Whereas Yamato combo B is attack button, pause, attack button. So 2 plus 1, right? But you can also you can press the attack button 3 times or 4 times as long as you make that pause for Yamato combo B. So technically you could say that these pauses can overlap in a way. So when you press the attack button 4 times with the Yamato, Vergil will use the first 4 hits of Yamato combo C. And then you make a pause, which is required for, well, Yamato combo C. So after you're done with Starfall, you switch to the Yamato, you let go of the lock-on, this is pivotal, and you press and hold right, because you want Vergil to face the enemy, and you want the Doppelganger to face away from the enemy. You want the Doppelganger to gain distance away from the enemy. This is very, very important. It's just like last time, except the roles are reversed here. In the second part of the combo, you wanted Vergil to step away from the enemy. You wanted Vergil to gain distance from the enemy, so you have to press and hold right while using Yamato combo A. In this case, you want Vergil to close in on the enemy, and you want the Doppelganger to actually be the one to gain distance away from the enemy. So once you're done with Starfall, you switch to the Yamato, you let go of the lock-on, and you press and hold right. Now you press the attack button 4 times, and now after you've done the 4th hit, you make a slightly lengthier pause. And during this lengthy pause, you stop holding right and you start holding left. Because now you want Vergil to face away from the enemy. You don't want him to be facing the enemy. And you want the Doppelganger to face the enemy because you want the Doppelganger to use the last hit of Yamato combo B. And for him to do that, he has to be facing the enemy. So, if he wants to launch the enemy towards Vergil. So, again, I know I keep repeating myself, but I gotta do it for good measure. So, you do Starfall, you switch to the Yamato, you let go of the lock-on, and you hold right. As you're holding right, you press the attack button with the Yamato 1, 2, 3, 4, so 4 times, and now you make a lengthy pause. During this lengthy pause, you stop holding right and you start holding left so that Vergil can face the other side. And now, after this pause, you press and mash the attack button. This will cause the Doppelganger to use the last hit of Yamato combo B and launch the enemy towards Vergil. And it will also cause Vergil to use the slash barrage of Yamato combo C. And now the enemy will land directly onto this slash barrage. And you just deactivate the Doppelganger at this point. This is very important. You don't want to mess something up. You can see here how I actually didn't deactivate him in time, so that's kind of funny. So you just deactivate the Doppelganger and you keep mashing, and then you do the last hit of Yamato combo C, and that is the end of the combo. Again, one thing to bear in mind here is that throughout this last part of the combo, you don't lock on. So the moment you are done with Starfall, the moment you start Yamato combo C, you don't lock on. So you just press and hold right, and then eventually when it's time for Vergil to do that slash barrage, you just press and hold left. If you lock on, the Doppelganger will simply face the enemy, because he will be locked onto the enemy, you know? And if you press and hold right without locking on, the Doppelganger will gain distance away from the enemy. And the same thing applies to Vergil later. If you're locked on, it doesn't matter that you're pressing and holding left, Vergil will lock onto the enemy, and he will face them during the slash barrage. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is that you might want to throw a Mirage Blade at this point. Like, 8 times out of 10, the enemy will fall to the ground. And that just drives me crazy. Like, the combo will work even if the enemy falls to the ground, but yeah, it just looks better if the enemy is still airborne. Sometimes you don't really have to throw the Mirage Blade at the enemy because Vergil will kind of graze the enemy with the 4th hit of Yamato combo C. But that depends on the distance. The distance for this part of the combo is completely random. That is the most difficult, the most annoying part of this last part of the combo. The distance between Vergil and the enemy is just random. Sometimes he'll be too close to the enemy, sometimes he'll be too far away from the enemy. Sometimes you don't even have to hold right, you gotta hold left. I'll explain that later. For now, all you gotta know is that you might want to throw Mirage Blade at the enemy to keep them airborne. One thing I really gotta clarify here, I really gotta mention this, basically, while I was doing the combo, I wouldn't press the attack button 4 times. As you already know, you press the attack button 4 times, then you make a pause, and then you press and mash the attack button. You know, you hold right, then left, blah, 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 you already know. But, I wouldn't press the attack button 4 times. Instead, I would press the attack button 3 times, then I would make this incredibly short pause. It's like infinitesimal, it's really short. And then I would press the attack button a 4th time before making that normal, lengthy pause. So instead of pressing the attack button 4 times and then making a pause, I would press it 3 times, make a very short pause, press the attack button a 4th time, and then I would make the pause. So I don't know why I did that, but I thought that was, like, necessary. I thought it wouldn't, you know, like, I was under the impression that the combo wouldn't work otherwise, but I was wrong. You can absolutely just press the attack button 4 times, and that's it. As a matter of fact, you can even press the attack button 5 times. So you press the attack button 5 times after Starfall, and then you make that pause, and then you just mash. So you can do it 4 times, you can do it 5 times, you can do it 3 times, small pause, and then 4th, you know, I don't know, man, it was just a needless encumbrance on my end. I don't know why I did that. So, in all the following analyses, you'll see that I actually, you know, when I start analyzing the mistakes, you'll notice that, basically, I was doing things like that, like 3 hits, small pause, 4th hit, and then, you know, I don't want you to be confused, basically. So, when you hit the ground, you press the attack button 4 times, and then you make a pause. And when you press the attack button 4 times, Vergil will use the first 4 hits of Yamato Combo C. And then when you make a pause, which is required, and you press the attack button again, and mash it, he will do the slash barrage. Now, you might be wondering, wait, so if you press the attack button 4 times, Vergil will use the first 4 hits of Yamato Combo C. But how come the Doppelganger won't use the first 4 hits? He only uses the first 2 hits of Yamato Combo B. This is the haste version of the Doppelganger. He reacts to your commands immediately. So why is he only doing 2 hits, even though you press the attack button 4 times? But Vergil is doing 4 hits. What gives? So, it's very simple. The Doppelganger won't react to your commands immediately because he will be too busy sheathing his sword after using aerial cleave. As you already know, when you're sheathing your sword, you don't react to commands immediately. So you gotta wait. You know, you basically start mashing, and you press the attack button 4 times. The Doppelganger will not react to the first 2 hits. Like, the first 2 clicks, the first 2 times you press the attack button, because he will be too busy sheathing his sword. But after you've pressed the 3rd and 4th hit, he will react, and he will do the first 2 hits of Yamato Combo B. So let's say you're Vergil, and you just did aerial cleave, and now you're on the ground, and I press the attack button 4 times. He won't react to the first hit, he won't react to the second hit because he's sheathing his sword, but he will react to the 3rd hit and the 4th hit. And that is exactly what happens with the Doppelganger here. When you press the attack button for the first time, he sleeps. When you press it for the second time, he sleeps. But he does react to the 3rd and 4th hit. So he does the 1st and 2nd hit of Yamato Combo B. And when you make the pause, he will also make the pause. And when you resume mashing, he will use the last hit of Yamato Combo B, because Yamato Combo B is attack button, pause, attack button. And that is exactly what happens. But Yamato Combo C is attack button, like 4 times, not twice, and then you make a pause and you keep mashing. So this is exactly why Vergil will use Yamato Combo C, and the Doppelganger will use Yamato Combo B, because the Doppelganger will not react to the first 2 hits, because he will be too busy sheathing his sword, but he will react to the 3rd and 4th hit, and he will do the 1st and 2nd hit of Yamato Combo B. And when you make that pause,
and then you resume mashing, he will use the last hit of Yamato combo B, and Vergil will use the slash barrage of Yamato combo C. So that's literally how this works. There is no need to make that short pause that I mentioned. So, yeah. And now we can finally talk about all the mistakes you can make with this combo. And believe me, there is no shortage of insanely inexplicable mistakes that you can make with this combo. So let's get into it. So one thing that can definitely happen, and it just kept happening, and it kept happening, it's definitely not the most frequent issue, but it definitely happened quite a few times. The Doppelganger sometimes won't react to you inputting upper slash 2. He'll just stand there doing absolutely nothing. Now, this could have to do with me not being fast enough, or maybe me being too fast. But as you can see, on my keyboard, like, I'm definitely inputting everything. Like, I input upper slash 1, I call the Doppelganger back to my position before he can react, and I input upper slash 2, but it doesn't work. And the Doppelganger either just stands there, or he kind of moves to the right. I don't know if maybe it's a camera issue. You already know the Doppelganger sometimes simply won't react to your inputs, especially during the very start of the combo. So, could be a camera issue, could be a Doppel issue, it could be a me issue, skill issue, doesn't really matter, but it did happen quite a few times. So, yeah, I have this lingering suspicion that it's a me issue, actually. It's got to do with speed. Maybe I do it too fast. I don't know. So, the second thing that can happen, and this only happened once, swear to God, like maybe twice, I don't know. So the Doppelganger's upper slash completely misses the enemy. So, like I said, this is incredibly rare, and I think the reason this happened was because I was too far away from the enemy when I started the combo. So make sure that you're either very close to the enemy, or you're just, you know, close to the enemy. Apparently, I miscalculated, I wasn't close enough, and as a result, the Doppelganger's upper slash simply missed. So, yeah, it's something that can definitely happen. Another thing that can happen is using the perfect judgment cut instead of the regular judgment cut. So like I said, I've already mentioned this, but you know, if you release the attack button at the right time, you'll end up using a perfect judgment cut, and this will basically cause the Doppelganger to go back to Vergil's position. So that's a no-no. Make sure that your timing is deliberately off. Make sure that you don't release the attack button too early. So, yeah. Now, this isn't an issue per se, but I just want to demonstrate what would happen if you didn't use trig down before million stab. So let's say you just use million stab, you know, right off the bat. So what would happen is Vergil would simply use this inverse million stab, and, you know, he would be on the Doppelganger side and the combo would fail. So he needs to gain distance with trig down. There's always purpose behind every move that you make in a combo, usually. Unless it's solely for stylish purposes, but, you know, usually it's kind of, like, necessary. Now, this happened a few times, man. It happened at least 10 times, so I would end up using drive instead of million stab with the Mirage Edge. So, as you already know, trig down, like first I use trig down, and when you're on the right side on the ground, trig down is right plus left plus trig button, or in my case, D plus A plus E. But using my trainer, I can actually make it so that I can use trig down simply by pressing right plus trig button without having to press right plus left plus trig button. It's not really difficult for me to do it, but usually I would have to turn the camera around and press back plus forward plus trig button. For some combos I do it without this option, for some I do it with it. It really doesn't matter ultimately, but as you can see, I pressed right plus trig button instead of right plus left plus trig button to use well, trig down, and then I pressed left and I started holding the attack button to use million stab, but somehow, even though I stopped pressing right, the game registered me pressing right plus left plus attack button, and it used drive. So as you already know, when you're on the right side on the ground,
with the Mirage Edge, left plus holding the attack button is million stab, but right plus left plus attack button is drive. And in this case, apparently I should have waited a millisecond before inputting million stab, before pressing left and holding the attack button, because the game kind of remembered me pressing right plus trig button when I was using trig down, and it kind of remembered that and memorized it. So when I pressed left, it was like, oh, he's chaining these two together, right plus left plus attack button, that's drive. So this happened a few times. You could say it's a me issue, just don't be this hasty, don't be too fast. But yeah. And here you can see something that is just incredibly common. And this is it's an anomaly. I don't know how to account for this. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know anything about this. So 8 times out of 10, when you use million stab, it will not reach the enemy. It simply won't. And at that point, what do you even do? Like, sure, you can still cancel trick up. You don't need to be close to the enemy to do that. It's not enemy step. But the enemy will fall to the ground. You could throw Mirage Blade at the enemy to keep them airborne, but it's still annoying, right? Like, it's very annoying how this happens. Like, sometimes million stab simply won't reach the enemy. And this is something that I really, you'll notice that this is a recurring pattern. I'll talk about this later, but this, it's like the distance between Vergil and the enemy and the Doppelganger and the enemy is completely random at times. Sometimes Vergil will be too far away from the enemy. Sometimes the Doppelganger will be too far away from the enemy. Sometimes they'll be too close to the enemy, and I don't know how to affect this. I simply don't know. Now, I have a theory, honestly, and this theory will apply to everything that I say from now on, but in the original combo, the original creator of this combo, Michelle Gun 201, you can see how when, he does that judgment cut, he actually waits for the Doppelganger to finish using his judgment cut, and then he calls him back to his position and he inputs rapid slash. And then, he uses trig down and million stab, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, what if this all has to do with, whether or not you let the Doppelganger finish his judgment cut? Because in almost all of my attempts, I don't let the Doppelganger finish judgment cut. I call him back to my position before he can even use a judgment cut. And I'm like, what if it's that? But I tested it out, I let him finish his judgment cut, and no, that was not the reason. Maybe it helps, but it's definitely not the reason. The main reason, at least. So I was like, what if it has to do with when I use trig down? What if it has to do with when I input the Doppelganger's rapid slash? What if it has to do with when I use million stab? Because, the distance between Vergil and the Doppelganger, the enemy probably correlates to the altitude, the enemy's height, basically. Because, this sounds plausible to me because of the pit combo and because of my experience with, multiple Vergil combos that I've done over the years. And I'm like, what if this is the reason? What if the distance between Vergil and the enemy depends on the enemy's altitude? What if I'm supposed to wait for the enemy to be closer to the ground before using trig down, before inputting million stab? But then, what if that's not the case at all? I've tested all of these variables, and I can't seem to find any concrete evidence to lend credence to my claims. I can't corroborate this in any way. I simply don't know why this happens. It can't be random. There has to be a reason as to why this happens, because, I actually even humor the idea that this might have to do with the concentration. As you already know, concentration increases the range of your attacks, as was the case with the urban combo. So I was like, what if million stab, what if, but then I was like, wait, but I'm already using concentration level 2, so my range should be at its peak. And yet I can't reach the enemy. But sometimes the opposite happens, and I'm too close. And you'll see later, this, everything that I'm talking about now will apply to some other mistakes. So I don't want to repeat myself ad nauseum.
So I have no idea why this happens. I'm inclined to say that it has to do with the enemy's altitude, and the distance between Vergil and the enemy is kind of, like, it corresponds to that, but I have no way of proving that. So yeah. But like I said, even if Million Stab doesn't reach the enemy, you can still do the combo normally. So it's just that the enemy will fall to the ground and it'll look lame, but most of the time the enemy falls to the ground anyway, unless you throw a Mirage Blade, which is actually what I did multiple times. This is one thing that can also happen, so... Oh man, this happened a lot, but I just didn't record that many instances, or well, I did, but I'm too lazy to actually go and scour through all that. So sometimes the Doppelganger will use Judgment Cut. Now, why does this happen? Well, when you press left and you hold the attack button with the Mirage Edge to use Million Stab, at some point you're supposed to release the attack button. And because of this, the Doppelganger will react to that, and he will use a Judgment Cut. This happens if you hold the attack button for too long while using Million Stab. Because as you already know, when you hold the attack button and then you release it with the Yamato, that is Judgment Cut, and the Doppelganger only uses the Yamato, so when he recognizes that you're basically holding the attack button and then releasing it, he will use a Judgment Cut. So make sure that while you're using Million Stab, you are not holding the attack button for too long. Only hold the attack button like at the very beginning of the move, and then you just stop holding it. You know, you just focus on canceling Trick Up and mashing with Aerial Rave. But that is definitely something that can happen. Do not hold the attack button for too long while using Million Stab. Otherwise, the Doppelganger will recognize that, he will react to it, and he will use a Judgment Cut. And here we have that notorious mistake from before, the most tantalizing part of the combo. So, failing, you know, basically canceling Trick Up too late. And like I said, either you will be like launched into the air, you'll be teleported into the air by Trick Up way too high, or you will be lifted off the ground, but it will still be way too high. So you'll have to wait about a second to actually drop to the ground. And that's a big no-no. Like, the combo will basically fail if you do that. Like I said, you can practice this Trick Up cancel simply by using Million Stab, and every time you use Million Stab, like, you let go of the lock-on, you switch to the Yamato, you press the Trig button to use Trick Up, and you immediately press the attack button to cancel it. And you can do it consistently, I'm sure. If you practice this, you will be able to do it. No problem. Well, not really no problem. You probably won't be able to do it properly, but, you know, whatever. In time, with time, it will come. So, yeah. Here you can see how I failed the Trick Up cancel, and I didn't cancel Trick Up in time, and as a result, I was launched into the air, like very high up into the air. But I ended up using Aerial Rave too, and the Doppelganger, like the last hit of Yamato Combo B, it actually launched the enemy towards Vergil, and I pinned the enemy to the ground with the last hit of Aerial Rave 2. This was so cool. Not gonna lie, you can end the combo here. Like, this was my own finisher in a way. Of course, it's not as flashy, but, you know, if you're content with that, you can absolutely do it. One mistake that I kept making for some reason, this is entirely on me, is I would forget to turn left during the last hit of Yamato Combo A. So the Doppelganger blows the enemy away towards Vergil with the last hit of Yamato Combo A, and I'm supposed to press, like, I'm supposed to stop holding right, and I'm supposed to press left so that Vergil can turn towards the enemy, and basically send the enemy flying with the last hit of Yamato Combo A towards the Doppelganger. But in all of these instances, I don't stop holding right. I am still holding right even during the last hit of Yamato Combo A. And you're not supposed to do that. Make sure that during the last hit of Yamato Combo A, you press and hold left so that Vergil can turn towards the enemy. You know, so that he could face the enemy. And of course, make sure, absolutely make sure not to be locked on. So during this part, you are not holding shift, you're not holding lock on. You're pressing and holding right
to gain distance away from the enemy, and then you just press and hold left. That's how it works. No locking on until it's time to use upper slash, alright? Now look at this. This is entirely on me, and I don't know why I kept doing this. So, you'll see how, like, the Doppelganger doesn't connect Yamato combo A, and the reason for this is, for whatever godforsaken reason, during that aerial rave mash, you know, after canceling trick up, I was holding left. I don't know why. You're supposed to hold right during this part, but I was holding left, and this caused the Doppelganger to go left, so he moved away from the enemy. He gained distance away from the enemy because I kept holding left during this aerial rave mash. And obviously, since he gained distance away from the enemy, when he eventually came back, when I pressed right, he couldn't, you know, make contact with the enemy because he was simply too far away. I don't know why I was doing this. I don't know why I was pressing and holding left of all keys, of all buttons, while mashing. You're supposed to press and hold right, not left, right, during this mash after trick up. That is pivotal. I don't know why I kept pressing and holding left, but it just kept happening, and it kept happening, and it wouldn't stop happening, so I have no idea why I was doing that, but, you know, that's one thing to look out for. But I don't think you'll have that issue, because, well, you guys are probably smart, so... Here you can see how the Doppelganger ended up resetting Yamato combo A, even though I canceled trick up perfectly, and I was mashing like non-stop. I guess maybe I made a pause during my mash, and the Doppelganger recognized that pause, and he stopped mashing, only to resume mashing later. But because of this, he basically ended up resetting Yamato combo A. This is, like, imagine you do everything perfectly, and you know you did everything perfectly. You did this incredibly difficult part of the combo, and then this happens. This is just so asinine, man. I don't know. Here you can see how I used combo C instead of combo A. So, for some reason, I make a pause during my mashing, and I end up using Yamato combo C instead of Yamato combo A. And this is just marinating in irony, bro. Because whenever I actually want to use Yamato combo C in my combos, whenever I actually want to make a pause, the game says, no, your pause wasn't long enough for me to use Yamato combo C. You're doing Yamato combo A. But in this case, I literally made a 0.001 second pause, and the game was like, oh, I see you, boss, I see you, chief, and it fucking did Yamato combo C. Under any other circumstances, I swear to you, this would not have happened. Like, if this was the sewer combo, or the urban combo, or any of those, you know, combos where you're supposed to make a lot of pauses, this would not have happened, and I would have ended up using Yamato combo A, even though I would have wanted to use Yamato combo C. But now that I want combo A, the game does combo C, and this happened like 30 fucking times, man. I don't even know why, but sure, you know what? I'll concede. It's my fault. I guess I should have mashed faster, bro. Imagine, like, having to worry about all this, but then you gotta worry about mashing 5 billion times in 1 millisecond. God, this is so annoying. Jesus, this combo is so incredibly aggravating. Here you can see how the Doppelganger and Vergil, or rather the Doppelganger, was too close to the enemy, so when I used the last hit of Yamato combo A with Vergil to send the enemy flying towards the Doppelganger didn't have time to use upper slash because he was simply too close, and even if he had done it, it wouldn't have worked. I don't know why this happens. Like, again, this is a distance issue. Actually, I think I know why this happens now, because I'm making this recording while editing, and now I can see it. So, Vergil, this is so ironic, man. Vergil falls to the ground way too fast. Could it be that I canceled trick up way too fast? Is that even possible? So, when you cancel trick up, you're supposed to be 1 millimeter away from the ground. And when you start mashing, Vergil will use the first 2 hits of Aerial Rave 1,
and then the game will automatically bring him to the ground after the first 2 hits of Aerial Rave 1. But here, the game brings me to the ground after the first hit of Aerial Rave 1. So as a result, Vergil starts Yamato Combo A earlier than he should, and as a result, he finishes it earlier than he should, which is why this happens. So, could it be that I cancel Trick Up so fast that instead of being 1 millimeter away from the ground, I was half a millimeter away from the ground? That is literally the only explanation here. Like, the reason this happened was the game brought Vergil to the ground way too fast after the first hit of Aerial Rave instead of the second hit. He's supposed to do this, like, he's supposed to use 2 hits of Aerial Rave in the air, and then he should start using Yamato Combo A on the ground. But the game brought me to the ground after only the first hit. And as a result, he started using Yamato Combo A earlier than he should. And he finished it earlier than he should by extension. So this is just so ironic, man. So many issues where I cancel Trick Up way too late, or I'm like, not fast enough, I'm 2 millimeters away from the ground, and here the issue seems to be me canceling Trick Up way too fast. This is just so crazy to me. Oh, and also, you'll notice how the enemy falls to the ground during this part, even though I was very close to the enemy. Yeah, so a lot of the time, the enemy will fall to the ground during this tennis match between Vergil and the Doppelganger. Like, he will simply fall to the ground. Sometimes that won't be the case. For example, in that second example that I showed you in this video, like V2 of the combo, you'll notice how there was no need for me to throw Mirage Blade. But in the first combo, like the original combo that I uploaded, you'll notice how I did throw Mirage Blade at the enemy to keep them airborne. Otherwise, they would have fallen to the ground because Vergil's Doppelganger didn't hit them with Yamato Combo A early enough. He didn't graze them to prevent them from falling to the ground. So I had to take matters into my own hands, and I had to throw Mirage Blade to keep the enemy from falling to the ground. This is something that I recommend doing. So if you notice that the enemy is about to fall to the ground during this tennis match between Vergil and the Doppelganger, make sure to throw Mirage Blade at the enemy to keep them airborne. Just a tip. And this is something that just would not stop happening, man. So the last hit of Vergil's Yamato Combo A simply does not connect. It refuses to connect. And I don't know why this happens. I can't describe to you how many times this happened. Like, these are all different instances that you're seeing on the screen right now. Like, it just kept happening, and it kept happening, and it simply would not stop happening. Like, somehow, when the Doppelganger does his final hit of Yamato Combo A, it sends the enemy flying, but he is somehow, like, too high up in the air, or he's above Vergil, or he's at a weird camera angle. So even though I do the last hit of Yamato Combo A, it simply doesn't make contact with the enemy. And at that point, I gotta ask, why? Like, does it have to do with the distance between Vergil and the enemy? Is this another distance issue? Like, this is something that just kept happening, and oh man, and this is, this is the case. You'll notice that this is a pattern with like 90% of the mistakes in this combo, and I have yet to talk about these other mistakes, but 9 times out of 10, they're completely inexplicable. Like, it's something that I cannot explain. Something is causing these mistakes, and it's seemingly arbitrary, or at least I lack the means to explain it because I don't know how. I simply don't know. So, alright, let's move on. Now, have a look at this. So, alright, we've established that there were a lot of instances where Yamato Combo A, like the last hit of Vergil's Yamato Combo A, did not connect. But I always thought to myself, like, why? And I saw a few instances, and I don't really know if this is the same thing, but I definitely feel like this is really, really important because it was a really frequent mistake. So, in all the following instances, the last hit of Vergil's Yamato Combo A doesn't connect, but it happens because Vergil and the Doppelganger do the combo at around the same time. And as you already know, The Doppelganger is supposed to use Yamato Combo A before Vergil. That's the whole point, because if they're in sync, they will finish the combo at the exact same time. So in all of these instances, you'll notice that they start the combo at approximately the same time. The Doppelganger starts a millisecond earlier, right? But it's really, like, look at this. Just look at the Doppelganger, so pay attention to the Doppelganger while I'm using Million Stab. So in the original combo, or at least this successful attempt, look at what happens when I cancel Trick Up and start mashing in the air. So let's see what happens when I start using Aerial Ray with the Yamato. So look at the Doppelganger. He immediately starts mashing at the exact same time as me. And then as a result, he basically starts Yamato Combo A earlier, right? And now I'm on the ground and I start Yamato Combo A, but Vergil's Doppelganger has already done the first 2 hits of Yamato Combo A before Vergil. And this is because he reacted to me mashing the attack button in the air after canceling Trick Up. So that's basically how it's supposed to work. We've established that already. But let's see what happens in all of these instances. So I use Million Stab, I cancel Trick Up by mashing the attack button, but look at the Doppelganger. He is not reacting to me mashing the attack button. He's not reacting at all, and only when I hit the ground does he start using Yamato Combo A, but he uses it at the exact same time as Vergil, 0.3 seconds before Vergil. And look, as a result, he sends the enemy flying, but Vergil finishes his combo before he can make contact with the enemy. And this happened because the Doppelganger didn't react to me mashing the attack button. Let's see this instance. Again, I cancel Trick Up, or I start mashing. The Doppelganger does not react to me mashing, and he only starts using Yamato Combo A later, and, well, it fails. This instance as well, I cancel Trick Up, I start mashing. Nope, the Doppelganger only starts mashing when Vergil hits the ground. And as a result, you know what happens. He sends the enemy flying, and Vergil finishes Yamato Combo A before the enemy could get close to him, before he can make contact with the enemy. Again, yet another instance of this happening. So let's see what happens here. Again, I cancel Trick Up, I start mashing. The Doppelganger starts the combo at the exact same time as Vergil, and it fails. Again, yet another instance. It just doesn't stop. It's always, look at this, these are all different instances. The Doppelganger simply does not react to me mashing. So I started thinking to myself, as you can see, maybe the reason the Doppelganger doesn't react to me mashing is because he's too busy sheathing his sword after using Rapid Slash. As you already know, when you use Rapid Slash, you know, when you're done with Rapid Slash, Vergil will sheath his sword, and as you already know, Vergil, and his Doppelganger too by extension, he does not react to commands. He does not react to melee commands while sheathing his sword. So maybe the reason this happens is because I call the Doppelganger back to my position and had him use Rapid Slash too late. Or maybe I used Million Stab too early. I think this sounds plausible because why else would this be happening, you know? So the only advice that I can possibly give you here is, I don't know, maybe call the Doppelganger back to your position earlier and have him use Rapid Slash really fast so that when you cancel Trick Up and start mashing, the Doppelganger has already finished sheathing his sword, right? That's the only thing that comes to mind here. Because maybe the reason all this happened was because I used Trick Down and Million Stab and I started canceling Trick Up way too early. Or I don't know, man. I don't know. I really don't know. But I think I might be onto something here. So, yeah. Oh, man. And here it is. One of the most common issues you will ever encounter. Probably the second most frequent mistake. I don't know if I'm, exaggerating or not, but I definitely think this is one of the top 3 most common mistakes you will experience with this combo. And once again, it's something that I simply can't properly explain. So, upper slash 2 doesn't come out. In other words, when I input upper slash 2, which, by the way, just to get this out of the way, when you are on the left side on the ground with the Yamato, pressing left and holding the attack button is upper slash 2. And when I press that, the Doppelganger is supposed to react to that and use upper slash 2. However, that doesn't happen.
I use the last hit of Yamato combo A, I send the enemy flying towards the doppelganger, and I press left plus holding the attack button, and the doppelganger doesn't do anything. He is simply... And there are two possibilities. Number one, the doppelganger doesn't react because he's too busy sheathing his sword. Because, you know, when you're sheathing your sword, you don't react to commands. But no, that's not it. That's not it, I'm sure. The second reason, the second possibility is that it has to do with the camera angle. There is a third possibility that it might be the distance between the enemy and the doppelganger, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It kind of seems to me that this is a camera issue. As you already know, if you've been following my combo analyses, you'll know that this is very, very common. The game, especially the doppelganger, like either he doesn't react to your commands, or the game, like the camera somehow thinks, oh no, what are you talking about? The doppelganger isn't on the left. He's actually behind the enemy. You're supposed to press forward plus attack button, not a left plus attack button. So this is something that I feel has to do with the camera. I could be entirely wrong, but as you can see, these are all different instances. There are 3.5 minutes worth of, well, no upper slash, you know? And these are just some of the recorded instances. Keep in mind, I don't record most of my attempts, and even the ones I do, I'm not gonna like scrutinize everything and go, oh wait, let me find this one, let me find every instance where I made this mistake. No, these are just some of the most prominent instances that I was able to find, that I wasn't too lazy to find. But believe me, there were many, many more. This is just something that would not stop occurring. It's incredibly annoying. And imagine you do everything perfectly and the doppelganger fails at this point. What do you do at that point? How can you not get pissed? But it's nothing, because there are other mistakes that you can make later during the last part of the combo that will make you literally pull all your hair out. So, stay tuned. So, we got this mistake. Upper slash 2 actually comes out. The doppelganger actually reacts, and he does upper slash 2, but upper slash 2 does not connect. The enemy flies away, he flies right past the doppelganger, and the doppelganger doesn't even have the chance to make contact with him. Again, this might have to do with the camera. Like, look at the enemy, like, the enemy's initial positioning during this tennis match, during this catch game between Vergil and the doppelganger. He somehow isn't aligned with the doppelganger from the very beginning, so he never had a chance. You know, the doppelganger never had any possibility to hit the enemy. You know, he just flew right past them. And I don't know, man. It could be a distance issue as well. I really have no idea. I don't know how to explain this. All I know is it is just incredibly, incredibly annoying. Alright, so this was a rookie mistake. I didn't really know this was what I was supposed to do. So this only happened the first few times I attempted the combo because, well, I wasn't sure how to do things. So after you're done with this judgment cut, right, with the doppelganger and, you know, Vergil, you're supposed to call the doppelganger back to your position and then use air trick to teleport to the enemy. But I was of the opinion that, hey, when you use air trick, Vergil teleports to the enemy alongside the doppelganger. So the doppelganger will teleport to the enemy alongside Vergil when you use air trick. But no. The doppelganger was already airborne, so when I used air tricks, he simply remained airborne, but he wasn't by my side. And this was a big issue. This only happened like 3 to 4 times before I was actually able to realize what was going on. So make sure that after you use this double judgment cut, you call the doppelganger back to your position, in my case by pressing V, and then you use air trick. So this isn't a mistake you will make if you know what you're doing, so yeah. Here you can see how the combo was going to be a success, probably, but just as I was about to start the last part, I ended up using Helm instead of Starfall. The reason for this was, instead of switching to Beowulf, I switched to the Mirage Edge. Yay, and this happened like 5 times, believe it or not. Just muscle memory, man. What can I say? Alright, so, and here you can see how, for some reason, the same thing happened, but not really, because here, I did switch to Beowulf, but instead of using Starfall, I used Lunar Phase. And the reason this happened was I actually vividly recall why this happened. Like, I remember this was actually, like, probably the first time I had gotten to that part. Like, I was like, wait, I actually, wait, we're doing the last part? Wait, fuck, I didn't expect to get this far. Wait, what do I do now? I forgot how to do the last part of the combo. Oh, it's too late. And sometimes, you know, I just had this brain freeze. I don't know how to explain it. I was just like, oh, you know, aneurysm. So, yeah, this is why I keep saying make sure to practice the last part of the combo first so that you know what to do when you use Starfall. In my case, I did actually practice the last part of the combo multiple times. I got it down perfectly, but it had been such a long time before I was actually able to use it. I never expected to actually get to that part, to string it together, so I just kind of had this lag. So yeah. Here you can see how somehow I was too close to the enemy, so like the enemy was too close to the ground, so when I used Starfall, I blew the enemy away. So that's definitely something that can happen. And by the way, this is very important. The reason this happened, like the reason the enemy fell to the ground so fast and lost so much altitude in such a short period of time, was because I called the Doppelganger back to my position before he could use his own Judgment Cut. So in other words, I canceled the Doppelganger's Judgment Cut by calling him back to my position. Look at this, like he didn't even get the chance to use his own JC. So make sure you wait for the Doppelganger to finish using his own Judgment Cut, then call him back to your position, and then use Air Trick as soon as you can. So this is definitely a lesson. Definitely make sure you wait for the Doppelganger to finish using Judgment Cut. So yeah. Alright, so one of the main issues you can encounter during the third part, or well, the last part of this combo is, I don't know how to, like, refer to this, maybe desyncs? But it's not always a desync. I don't really know. So sometimes it's on me. So one thing that can happen is Vergil ends up using Yamato combo A instead of Yamato combo C, or Vergil does Yamato combo C, but the Doppelganger ends up using Yamato combo A instead of Yamato combo B. Now, this all hinges on it all depends on your inputs, on your timing, how many times you press the attack button, how fast you press the attack button, when you make the pause, and how long the pause is, and when you resume mashing after the pause. So, let's see what we can see, basically. So here you can see how the last pause wasn't long enough. So Vergil ended up using Yamato combo A instead of Yamato combo C. But even before that, you can see that the Doppelganger is really slow in doing combo B, so I don't think it would have worked anyway. But the main reason, like the reason why Vergil ended up using Yamato combo A instead of Yamato combo C was because the pause I made wasn't long enough. I should have waited longer instead of, you know, pressing the attack button again and mashing it. So the pause should have been longer. And you can see that same exact thing happened here. So the pause wasn't long enough, so Vergil ended up using Yamato combo A instead of Yamato combo C. So here you can see a similar thing. So I made the pause after the second hit. So 1, 2, pause. And you can see how the Doppelganger just completely destroyed everything. Like, but keep in mind, Vergil did use Yamato combo C. It's just that the Doppelganger did some random stuff, right? And I don't know why, but here you can see how the Doppelganger didn't do combo B. He didn't use Yamato combo B at all. It all got completely screwed up. I don't know. Like, sometimes I can explain it, right? Like, I didn't press the attack button, like, too many times, or I didn't... You know, sometimes it's on me. But sometimes I input everything perfectly, and it still doesn't work. Most of the time... You know, most of the time, it's not Vergil. Like, he's not going to be problematic. He will use Yamato combo C
unless unless the pause you make isn't long enough. But he will use Yamato combo C. But the Doppelganger, there have been so many instances where the Doppelganger uses Yamato combo A instead of Yamato combo B, or he just does some random stuff. Like, he just does some random slashes. He's kind of desynced. He's kind of slow. And I don't really know how to account for that. I don't know how to explain that. I'll show you a compilation of nearly successful attempts where I did the first and second part of the combo perfectly, but the third part was what destroyed me. So let's check it out. Alright, so here you can see I'm doing everything perfectly, and this is a rarity. You already know how difficult it is to get everything perfectly. And now I do this, and Vergil ends up using Yamato combo C, but the Doppelganger ends up using Yamato combo B. I guess I pressed the attack button one too many times, or the pause wasn't long enough, but if the pause had not been long enough, then Vergil would have ended up using Yamato combo A, but he did use Yamato combo C. It's just that the Doppelganger ended up using Yamato combo A, so this is what this is what I mean. Like, it's always so tedious. Like, explaining this is just so incredibly annoying. Here you can see the exact same thing happen. So I'm doing the combo perfectly. Everything is literally perfect. It can't be you literally can't get more perfect than this. And then, it's the last part of the combo. And, well, somehow Vergil's Doppelganger ended up resetting Yamato combo A. And this is just so annoying. Like, I don't even know, man. Like, I genuinely have no idea. Like, there's got to be an explanation here. But here you can see a similar thing happen. So Vergil ends up using Yamato combo A instead of Yamato combo C. The Doppelganger just completely destroys everything. Here you can see, let's see what happens here, actually. I don't even know. So, yeah, so Vergil does Yamato combo C, which is what he's supposed to do, but as you can see, the Doppelganger somehow, like, look at the Doppelganger. He kind of, in a way, he does the first hit of Yamato combo B, then he stops, even though I'm mashing, and then he does, he resumes mashing, but he resets the combo. And now it's just too late, basically. The fact that he reset the combo means that it's over. Here we can see, like, Vergil does Yamato combo C, but once again, let's look at the Doppelganger. What does the Doppelganger do here? So again, he does one hit of Yamato combo B, and then he stops. And then when I, continue mashing, he resets the combo, basically. And let's see what happens here. In this instance, you can see how Vergil ends up using Yamato combo A, and, well, that's on me, but you can also see how the Doppelganger does the same thing. He somehow lags. He somehow stops after the first hit of Yamato combo B. I have no idea why. Like, you can see this exact same thing happen here. Vergil does Yamato combo C, and the Doppelganger somehow, well, in this case, you can see how the Doppelganger did a combo A instead of combo B. So he did the first two hits of combo B, and then instead of making the pause, he just continued mashing. So I guess the pause wasn't long. I have no idea. This would be easier if I had the HUD enabled, if I could see, my keyboard and my controls and commands, but, yeah, I don't, unfortunately. So, yeah. And we have more instances of this happening, so, either Vergil ends up using Yamato combo A, which is a rarity, honestly. That's usually on me. That's when the pause isn't long enough. But the more pressing issue here is the Doppelganger not using Yamato combo B. Either he uses Yamato combo A, or he just somehow does the first hit of Yamato combo B and then stops, because he recognizes some pause. And when he does Yamato combo A, that means he doesn't recognize any pause. So, unfortunately, I really don't know what to tell you. So, my only advice is to stick to the analysis. So you have three ways of doing this. Either you press the attack button 4 times, then make a slightly lengthy pause, and then you resume mashing. Or you press it 3 times, slight pause, then the 4th time, and then you make a lengthier pause. Or you can even do it 5 times, pause, and then mash. It really doesn't matter. You'll get the hang of it. Like, sure, this is annoying when it happens, right? And it didn't happen. Like, it is a frequent mistake, not gonna lie. But, and it's all the more aggravating when you think that, this is literally the last part of the combo. Like, you made it through the second part, which is so excruciatingly difficult, and now this happens. That is always just a huge pain in the posterior, so, yeah. But I'd say that this mostly boils down to muscle memory. So you'll get the feeling for it eventually. Don't sweat it. Alright, so there is yet another thing that can happen. And this is equally as annoying. And this is just... No, actually, no. This is more annoying. Because this... You can't say this is on you, right? It probably is to some degree, right? To some extent. But it's not like that, alright? So listen... One thing that can happen is after using Starfall, you might end up being too close to the enemy. And when you're too close to the enemy, everything goes to absolute shit. Everything goes to hell. Oh man, so after using Starfall, I use Yamato combo C, I press and hold right, and I'm closing in on the enemy because that's what I'm required to do. And as you can see, I'm too close to the enemy. So when I turn left, you know, the Doppelganger does Yamato combo B, and I use Yamato combo C, but since I'm too close to the enemy, the Doppelganger doesn't even have the opportunity to launch the enemy, you know, to send them flying towards me, because I am literally right next to the enemy. So the back hits of Yamato combo C, like the slash barrage, this flurry of slashes, is hitting the enemy. And this is something that would just keep happening, and it would keep happening, and I, like, look at this. Okay, so, again, I use Starfall, I'm closing in on the enemy by pressing and holding right, and I'm literally right underneath the enemy. And look, my timing is alright. The Doppelganger ends up using Yamato combo B, Vergil ends up using Yamato combo C, I turn left, but I am simply too close to the enemy. And, you know, there's no, you know, the Doppelganger doesn't even send the enemy flying. It just looks like this. Same thing happens here. You know, the exact same thing, like in all of these instances, my timing is immaculate. The Doppelganger ends up using Yamato combo B, Vergil ends up using Yamato combo C, as you can see, like you can look at my controls, and, well, you know, it's not about that. It's about the distance, or, well, lack thereof, between Vergil and the enemy. If I'm too close, all of this happens. It all just goes to shit. And look at this. The same exact thing. I've lost count of how many times this happened. I've lost count. And look at this. Like, you know, I do everything perfectly. Like, this is literally perfection. Let's go. Okay, the enemy fell to the ground. I didn't use a Mirage Blade. But, you know, I'm doing everything perfectly. Blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm Starfall. Okay, it's time. It's time. Well, no. You know, back hits. Somehow I was too close to the enemy. This is just so incredibly tedious. And what I, like some word of advice here, alright? So, how do I explain this? If you notice that you're going to be too close to the enemy, you're going to have to, you know, kind of break the rules here. So, when you use Starfall, as you already know, you're required to press and hold right so that you can be closer to the enemy. You need to close in on the enemy. But if you're already too close to the enemy, then you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to press and hold left the moment you hit the ground with Starfall, and just keep holding left. But sometimes you'll miscalculate. So look at this. This is one example of me miscalculating and panicking. Oh man, this makes me want to cry. This attempt would have been perfect. So, I'm basically doing the combo perfectly. I don't know, man. Look at how perfect everything is. The first part, it's done. The second part, it's done. And now, it's time to use the third part. And look at this, look at this, look at this. I hit the ground with Starfall, and now I press and hold right, and I use the first two hits of Yamato combo C, and now I panicked, and I thought, wait, if I keep going right, if I keep holding right, what if I end up being too close to the enemy? Let's go left. So, I press and hold left before the slash barrage. So, I turn left, and I do the third and fourth hit of Yamato combo C. The timing was perfect, but because this time I was too far away from the enemy somehow didn't really land on... They did land on the combo C barrage, but it was kind of from behind. You know, the back hits got the enemy. So, you really gotta know, you gotta calculate. Like, when you hit the ground with Starfall, usually you would want to press and hold right so that you could, you know, close in on the enemy. But if you notice that you're going to be too close to the enemy, at that point you press and hold the left to move away from the enemy. In this instance that you saw just now, I made a blunder, and that blunder was I turned left too early because I was afraid I would be too close to the enemy if I'd held right. But
that would not have happened. It would have worked out perfectly if I had just done things normally, regularly. And since I pressed left too early, this happened. The enemy landed on the back hits. The combo did work, but it just looked kind of ridiculous, let's be honest. So, yeah. Here you can see this compilation of instances where everything would have gone perfectly if not for this. So when these back hits happen, when the back hits of Yamato Combo C hit the enemy, it is almost always a distance issue. Not necessarily, though, because there have been a few examples, there have been a few instances where the distance wasn't an issue, basically. It was something else. But 9 times out of 10, it has to do with the distance. And this is just really annoying because it needlessly encumbers things. Because when you use starfall, you have no idea if you'll be too close to the enemy or too far away from the enemy. And I guess that depends on how far starfall takes you. So the distance between Vergil and the enemy after starfall, and I think that basically corresponds to the enemy's altitude. So it depends on how high up in the air the enemy is before you use starfall. But not necessarily. I could speculate all day, I could hypothesize, but it really wouldn't do us any good. I'll just leave you with this this slideshow, well, not really a slideshow, this compilation of fails, and it just pains my heart, it pains me to look at this. I mean, look at all this. Like, all these examples, they would have been perfect. They're all different examples, by the way. All these attempts, they would have been perfect if not for this one issue, and it's made all the more annoying and all the more painful, due to the fact that it's basically, the last part of the combo, the very end of the combo. But I can understand this, alright? Sure, you could argue this is on you for not being able to calculate the distance between Vergil and the enemy. But what if I told you there's another issue that has nothing to do with you? And that issue is this. Sometimes the enemy simply doesn't land on Yamato Combo C. They don't land on the slash barrage. They just fly past you, completely ignoring you. And when this happened 4 to 5 times, I think, so it's not very frequent, don't worry, but it can most certainly happen. So imagine doing this incredibly difficult combo perfectly, and this happens. I don't know what to say, man. It's just really sad that these things happen, so yeah. But wait. There is one last thing that can happen. And funnily enough, this thing is actually more frequent than the previous issue, where the enemy doesn't land on the combo C slash flurry. This issue it happened like 10 to 12 times, maybe even more, I don't really know, I haven't really been counting, but so you do everything perfectly, absolutely, you killed it, everything, your timing was perfect, but the last hit of Yamato Combo C doesn't hit the enemy, so disconnects, you hit the air. The first time this happened, I literally closed the game so fast, I pressed Alt F4, I just went to bed, basically. I was like, no. The second time this happened, I was like, I just yelled, basically. I just yelled. I was so incredibly mad. The fact that this can happen during the last part of this combo is blasphemy. It is heresy, bro. It is uncalled for, man. This issue should not be a thing, bro. No, I am so... Oh, man, I have nothing more to add here. Oh, and one more thing. So, this never actually occurred to me until now, but remember how I told you how more often than not, your enemy will be on the ground? Like, during this last part of the combo, and you gotta throw this Mirage Blade to keep them airborne, right? So after this, after the Doppelganger hits the enemy with aerial cleave, they'll bounce back into the air, and then you're supposed to catch them with the last hit of Yamato Combo C, which is what happens in the original attempt.
the final combo that I uploaded. But more often than not, that will not be enough. You will not be close enough to the enemy to catch them with Yamato Combo C, so you'll have to throw a Mirage Blade to keep them airborne. So, okay, that's what happens after the aerial cleave bounce back effect. So the Doppelganger hits the enemy with aerial cleave, the enemy bounces back into the air, and they might fall to the ground if you're not fast enough or if you don't throw Mirage Blade. But what if I told you that there's another issue that can happen where the enemy is on the ground and no Mirage Blade can save you? So this is what happens when aerial cleave does not provide that bounce up effect. And I don't know why this happens. So let me show you. This happened a lot. Like you can see in all these instances, there are like 100 instances really, but I'll show you only a couple. So the Doppelganger uses aerial cleave. As you already know, aerial cleave is supposed to pin the enemy to the ground, and once you pin the enemy to the ground, they will bounce back into the air. But in all of these instances, aerial cleave does not provide any knockback. There's no bounce at all. Now, why does this happen? Now, I've tried on multiple occasions to kind of reenact this, and I found that using Storm Blades and then teleporting into the air provides the same result. I think this happens because of two things, or one of two things. Either Vergil, or well, in this case, the Doppelganger, is not close enough to the enemy to provide this effect, or the enemy is higher up in the air. He's at a higher altitude than Vergil's Doppelganger, and that's why this happens. If you recall in the pit combo and some other combos, aerial cleave literally wouldn't work. Like, you wouldn't even be able to pin the enemy to the ground at all if the enemy was at a higher altitude than you. But in this case, you do pin the enemy to the ground, but there's no bounce up effect at all. And this I'm pretty sure this has to do either with the distance between the Doppelganger and the enemy, or the enemy's altitude. Now, why does this happen, and how can you control it? I just don't know. But it's definitely something we're talking about, because if this happens, if there's no bounce back effect, there's nothing you can do. The enemy will simply be on the ground, and there's no need for you to throw Mirage Blade because there's no bounce up effect. So, yeah. All in all, I don't really know what to say, man. I don't know if this is the hardest combo I've ever done. I'm inclined to say yes, simply because of how many times because, I did get a ride on the first day, right? And like that day the day I decided to basically replicate this combo was the day I actually perfected it. But I was never content with my attempts. There was always something that was kind of like, it's giving me the ick, right? So I had to spend the next day recording more attempts until I was satisfied. And even then I wasn't satisfied, honestly. I'm never satisfied. I got this insane OCD when it comes to combos. You can see that even in the original attempt, I actually, the enemy falls to the ground before I could graze them with starfall. But it's not really an issue. This can happen if you don't use air trick in time, or if you don't use starfall in time. It's not really a problem because, the Doppelganger will still use aerial cleave, and it will have the same effect, so it doesn't really matter. But my OCD is telling me, no, keep recording more attempts. And I did. I recorded attempts where, I did graze the enemy with starfall. As you can see here, I recorded at least 4 attempts where I did everything perfectly, but somehow they didn't look as cool as the original attempt. I don't know why. The camera and the lighting and everything in the first, the original attempt, it just kind of looks better. And I even asked my friends, and they were like, yeah, man, I think the original attempt looks better, even though the enemy kind of falls to the ground, even, before you can use starfall. So I'm like, yeah, man, that works, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, man, the main reason, by far, the most annoying issue is the trick up cancel. And that could also be a me issue. It's just a speed issue, really. And I am playing this game on my crusty ass keyboard. I don't have a mechanical keyboard. I use a membrane keyboard from 2011. I got this keyboard in February of 2011 when I got my first PC. I was 13 years old. And
Yeah, I've been using the Logitech K120, and that's basically been my keyboard for, well, my whole entire life. And I'm proud of it, don't get me wrong. It looks god awful. I've tried cleaning it, but I can't. It's got dust particles in it. It's got, I don't even want to know what it has inside. Like, I literally can't even clean it because it's not a mechanical keyboard, so I can't take out the keys individually, and the dust isn't even like, I tried using the compressed air can and the spray thingy, but nothing works. I've even tried using water or wet wipes, but there's just this dust that is glued to the keys, and you cannot make it. There's an entire ecosystem in there. I swear to God, it's so gross, which is so funny because they got everything, like all this gaming setup, and then like you see this keyboard that's just so out of place. But I'm proud of it because I've played Storm on this keyboard. I've been playing DMC on it for, well, not 2 decades. What I'm talking about, for, well, almost a decade and a half now. So maybe if you're using a mechanical keyboard, or if you're using a controller, which I guess is the most optimal way to play this game, or any other game that's like, an action game or a fighting game, then yeah, I don't think you'll have as hard of a time as I did. Because in my case, it was just, I ain't got my keyboard probably doesn't have the proper latency or reaction time. I don't even know how it works, honestly. I'm not going to pretend like I know, but yeah, and like I said, even with the trick up cancel, which is definitely the hardest part of the combo, I can still do it relatively consistently if I only practice it using million stab. The moment I try to use it mid combo, my brain just goes woo, and I just can't do it. I don't know why. So yeah, and with this, I've replicated almost every combo that I initially set out to replicate. There are, I'd be lying if I said, that's all. I've replicated every good Vergil combo, because, obviously that's subjective, but this was just an eyesore to me for the longest time. I just really wanted to replicate this combo, but it was always, I always felt like it was not within the scope of my ability, I was like, nah, this is not within the realm of possibility for me. I can never replicate this combo. But now that I actually put my mind to it, I finally did it, and yeah, don't let this intimidate you. My friend actually replicated this combo like a few days after I replicated it, and sure, yeah, it was difficult. It was not easy by any means, but he actually ended up doing it almost. So yeah, I hope I haven't, like, I don't want to fearmonger. I don't want to discourage people from attempting this combo. I'm pretty sure you can do it. It will come with trial and error, but I am sure you can do it. And you could even argue that the Torment combo is more difficult because, well, it's simply more than... It's not even twice as long. It is literally, like, this combo is the shortest combo I've done after the Urban combo. It's 15 seconds long. The Torment combo is 34, 35. So it's a lot longer, so I guess when the combo is longer, you got more room for mistakes and failures, so yeah. Anyway, that's about the size of it. Hope you enjoy the video. Hope you enjoy the analysis. I always appreciate your feedback, your comments. It makes my day, seriously. So, yeah. See ya, peace out, and have a good one.
Fool. So slow. Weak. That's that.